Turn the countdown off. Hey, everyone. Look, what I'm not sure exactly what's going on here. Every time I work with our fellow Final Cut pros from Australia, everybody's in a different time zone, and apparently Lee is in a different dimension. He's upside down.
I'm down under.
Down under, that's right. Oh, my microphone just went down. Absolutely. Microphones.
Okay, I'll fix that.
There you go. There you go. So speaking of microphones and microphone arms, a lot of times people are using these radio DJ arms like Lee's got, but Lee's is out of the picture. And they have these giant arms that come down rather than just a little mic stand from the bottom that would come up, which would be a lot less obtrusive. Mm-hmm. Now, they're meant for radio DJs that aren't on camera, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yours is fine, Lee, because yours are just a little bit. But some of these people take up half the screen with a big arm, and it's all contorted and everything. Yeah, exactly.
Well,
it's all about. I mean, also, it's all about what's fashionable.
It is a big.
Well,
it is fashionable, and I'm all about what's fashionable.
But see, yours is good because yours is just coming in a little bit.
I mean,
yeah. I mean, it would help if I was bigger. It's just relative perspectives and things. It looks bigger than it is.
Yeah.
So let's
at least you don't have a lapel mic that you're holding up in front of yourself, like so many people do, and I don't understand. I just don't understand.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
1 minute in and I'm complaining about young people. Apologies, young people watching.
No, it's not young people. I've seen some people that have been in the business for a while, and let me tell you, that's one of the things that I'll turn your video off. If I see you holding a lapel mic like this doing a whole video, I'm not watching. It irritates me.
Well, I'm
okay.
Slight
I'll be sure not
devil's
to do
advocate,
that, Richard.
Yeah, not devil's advocate, but at least they've got a microphone. It's progress.
But can't you put a lapel mic on your lapel?
Don't bring logic into this conversation. It has
okay,
no place,
I'll leave that out of the conversation. So I just want to introduce everybody in case people are not familiar. Over here to my left is Ian Anderson. Down to the bottom left, upside down, because he's in Australia, is Lee Herbert. And then right directly below me is Chris Hawking, who's got more plugins on the app stores than anybody for Final Cut Pro, just about. Matter of fact, Chris, I've heard a complaint that can you please leave some stuff for other people to do, other developers. How many do you have now?
I
plugins?
Don't know. I think I've lost count. I think I've got Brawl Toolbox, which for bringing in Brawl files into Final Cut. Gyroflow Toolbox for gyroscope stabilization. Marker Toolbox for bringing in markers easily. What else have I got? Transfer Toolbox for moving stuff from iPad to Mac. Fast Collections for generating collections quickly. And then, I think that's it on the App Store, and then Command Post.
Oh, and Command Post is the big one, of course. The Command Post that you've been doing for free for years.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many years, but it's probably over 5 now.
Right.
How long have you been doing the podcast for?
Started 9 years in January. Started in January. The podcast, the audio podcast, 9 years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to guess, is B-Raw your most popular one?
Yes. Yeah. B-Raw is definitely the most popular, and then Gyroflow, then Marker, etc.
Okay, because I would presume because of the vast, Resolve market and people that go back and forth between Final Cut and Resolve, that's what I presumed that would be the biggest one.
Yeah, I thought because Brawl Toolbox was the first app I've ever tried to sell. So I thought when I released in January or February, it was 50% off. So I thought those first week, or I think it was a month, for 50% off for the first month. I thought the first month sale, and then it would drop off the face of the earth. But it's been pretty consistent the whole year, which is really interesting. And every day someone else joins the broad community, and
yeah, that's what I figured.
Sides.
Yeah, well, you were talking, so I just whoever's talking, I try to get them up. Well, I full screen and then put them back over there. That's set all these scenes up in ahead of time, and it seems to. Well, most of the time it works. I'm using a Stream Deck to switch. I love physical buttons. Let me tell you, the Stream Deck is my new dock, because my dock is so crowded with stuff, and the icons are so small. I put them all on pages on the Stream Deck now and just punch those nice big buttons. Something else, speaking of screens, I used to like my 34-inch LCD, my LG monitor. Now I find that I take the Final Cut and squeeze it in from both sides so I can see the monitor, because the inspector, because the inspector's too far away on the right-hand side for my glasses, and I can't see anything. So now I pull it over to the right and pull it over to the left, and I make the screen smaller inside of the 34-inch monitor. Got to get my glasses adjusted this year, because they always do the, I don't know, 10, 12 inches, 14 inches for reading a book and stuff, but I'm further than that away. My monitor is probably 15, 18 inches, maybe a little more. So that's what I need in focus for me. So what's going on in Australia? You guys are coming up to summer, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
And as far as production going on in Australia, is any movies being filmed or TV shows that we would know about in United States?
We just had in Melbourne
some big things which, yeah. Sorry, go for it.
No, you go in.
No. I think the stuff I was going to talk about on the Gold Coast, and I think there was a couple of big-ish productions which shut down because of the actors' strike, so they'll still be shut down as of now. You probably know more about what is happening. I know what's not happening, but it'll restart eventually.
So the actors' strikes in Hollywood affected Australia?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there are American actors in Hollywood films that happen to be filming in Queensland or Sydney.
Oh, I see. But the Australian actors weren't affected per se directly, right? Yeah, that's what was confusing to me.
Depends if they're working on American productions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So we had Metropolis was supposed to film in Melbourne, and they set up a really big LED, like a LED thing at Dockland Studios, and they were pretty much ready to start rolling, and then the writer's strike happened, and that whole project got canned. So that was a pretty devastating thing for the industry, because we had thousands of people working on it, and they'd had all the technology worked out, they had all the sets built, it was pretty much ready to go, and they just solved everything, and then the writer's strike happened, and Metropolis went away.
Wow, that's too bad. I was talking to some friends that I have in LA. Mike Yanovich is one. And I mentioned, we were going back and forth, and I tried to get him to come to the summit, which he is coming to the summit. He says he didn't know if he could because he's on strike, they don't have any money. I said, just buy me a hamburger, cheeseburger when you get there. He said, I can't afford one. I'm not, you're the one that should be buying me one. But anyway, he's showing up this year, doing a presentation on one of the films. What is he doing? I can't remember. He's right before the third day, right before we get to talk to the Q&A in the Final Cut Pro team.
Yeah. He's talking on storytelling in the second last session with Josh Beal.
Right. So the last time we were on, or a couple of times ago, I talked about the Final Cut Pro Creative Summit. At that point, Ian had been there and Lee had been there, but Chris is not. So Chris is coming this time. So that's got to be exciting. That's got to be exciting. So 2019 wasn't that exciting for Final Cut for at the summit, but 2016, 17, and 18 were. All three of those were very exciting because we had debuts of Final Cut Pro. In 2017, we had the debut of 10.4 at the summit. 2018, we had the debut of 10.4.4 at the summit. 2016, we had the debut of 10.3 less than 24 hours before the summit at the Apple Touch Bar MacBook Pro event. 2019, we didn't have anything. There's nothing new announced. So hopefully something, preview, give us something. We'll have to see, of course. What do you think, Lee? Think that's a possibility?
I think not. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't bet on it. I think Apple's strategy has changed somewhat in the last few years, in the sense of, up until, like you said, until sort of like 2018, they treated the summit as like an NAB sort of thing, where, right, we're going to save a big update for that and make it a big splash sort of thing. And nowadays, they don't seem to save big updates for particular events. It's sort of like when it's ready, it goes out.
Full number updates have always been announced at events. Always. Full number. 10.4, 10.5, 10.6, 10.7's not here yet. 10.4, 10.5, 10.6 have always been announced at Apple events. Okay, 10.5,
was 10.6
M1.
WWDC?
No, it was the M1 Mac Apple event.
Mm-hmm.
10.5. 10.6 was the M2, or what was it last year? It was 2 years ago. And the 10.6 was 2 years ago at an Apple event, MacBook events. So full number and updates are always announced at Apple events. Then prior to that, they were announced at this Creative Summit. 10.4 was announced at the Creative Summit. 10.3 was announced less than 24 hours before the Creative Summit. So full number updates are always announced at events, at least in the last 5 or 6 years. So does that change your idea?
No. But that, I think that's just my psyche. I'm one of those people who I don't have any expectations, and then I'm never disappointed.
Well, listen, speaking of that exact same thing, Ian, in 2019, yes, we were at the Creative Summit and we were talking about, I was expecting 10.5, and Ian said, he goes, I'm not, my expectations are not expecting 10.5, and mine were. Since then, my expectations are way down here. Expectations, not hope, not wishing, but my expectations are tempered, and they're very, very low because of the last 3 or 4 years. Doesn't mean I don't want them to have something good to happen. Like I said, I always want my expectations raised, but right now they're down low, so.
I don't trust that Ian fella. Last podcast we had, he said there would definitely be no iPad version of Final Cut.
Who said that?
He also said ChatGPT was a load of crap, and that turned out wrong as well.
Who said that?
Mr. Ian, the handsome one over there.
I don't know what you were talking about, Chris. I mean, I believe
Quick,
I
Richard,
have
play the
hedged
tape.
my bets
Play the tape.
pretty
Play the
carefully. I mean, look, the fact that they did do the iPad version did explain why we didn't have any major updates for a while in the Mac
But
version.
why? Why did it do that? Why don't they have separate people working, or some people common, but why should they take the entire Final Cut Pro team to work on the iPad version? And, when people say that, they said about Metal 2, they say about Apple Silicon delayed it, iPad, it didn't delay Blackmagic. None of those things delayed Blackmagic, and they all had to do the exact same thing. Blackmagic has the iPad version. Blackmagic had to do Metal 2. Blackmagic had to do Apple Silicon. Didn't delay them in the least bit.
To be fair, Blackmagic didn't have to do a ton of work because they basically just took the app, didn't recreate the whole UI, and just dumped it. Remember, there was that hack that let you get into the hidden options, which they just deactivated on an iPad, but you could, put in a keyboard shortcut to let you get access to, the edit page and the other page. So they didn't have to do as much work. It is more or less the same app with things lopped off, whereas the iPad version of Final Cut Pro is a whole separate beast that did require a whole lot more work. But yeah, look, I don't think we need to rehash any Ian said this or Ian predicted that. I'm careful about not predicting things most of the time. I'm hopeful, but you don't. It's not worth getting your expectations too high. I mean, I'm hopeful that someone would give me a Vision Pro so I could go make stuff, but I don't expect it to happen. I don't think we're even necessarily going to see Vision Pro at the summit. It'd be
You don't
nice,
think we're going to have one under our seats like Oprah when she has the gifts for everybody under their seats? You don't think Tim's going to do that?
So.
You don't think that?
No. I don't think we're going to see Tim. I'm pretty sure we're going to be in Apple Park. I'm pretty sure we're going to be in the Steve Jobs Theater, which is all very exciting.
Oh, that would be great. That's what I'm hoping for. Hoping for the Steve Jobs Theater.
I'm pretty sure that's all on the cards.
Actually, you know what, Richard? You know what you're going to get under your seat?
What's that?
You're going to get a You're going to get a Magic Mouse with a USB-C port on the front.
There you go. Well, that's a bonus. I mean, listen, what is up with things like this mouse that they've had for all these years and they didn't change it? Why are they so stubborn about something that's such a stupid design?
I can tell you. Okay. So
tell me.
The reason why this thing has the charging port on the bottom is because Lightning ports, at least most of the ones that Apple have made, are not strong enough to withstand the movement of a cable connected to this. And because Apple know that people would leave them connected, like they do with the keyboards, which are wireless keyboards, but can be kept plugged in, they know that if they allowed that to happen, if they allowed people to use it while it was connected with those Lightning cables, which are not great, they would have a house fire somewhere. Because at the scale of Apple,
a fire
somebody would have, 100%. There would be a frayed, crappy cable that sparked and caused a fire. It would cause somebody some problems. Now, if they were to give away one of the fancy new braided USB-C cables, maybe these are tougher. So maybe they will revise it and make it a possibility. But right now, it's not an accident. It's an active block. You cannot use this thing while it's charging,
right,
even if you put some special doohickey in to allow you to move it around. It is actively blocked from working while charging.
Yeah,
Go look on YouTube, Lee. You've been beaten already. I'm sorry to tell you.
No, Ian. Why hasn't Apple explained it like you just did?
Because Apple don't want to give any airtime to this. Like it's
too late.
They don't think you need to. Yeah, it's just one of those things which, it
Apple
doesn't matter.
don't want you to use a
matter.
mouse anyway. Everyone's just going to use their hands and their eyes from now on.
Well, people can compare the iPad, the Vision Pro with what was the name of that movie with Tom Cruise?
Minority Report.
Minority Report.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. There was no goggles with Tom Cruise. He just did it in the three-dimensional space in the air.
Well, he was on version 3.
Oh, okay. That'll work.
Sorry, I've just got that pre-release interface set up here now.
I thought you were cleaning the windows.
I thought you were cleaning your screen. Exactly.
Right not.
So we had one comment here. I'm not sure who this is from. Sometime news today about an update. No, you're a little early. I would say check back at November the 6th. If we're lucky. So typically, this is what happens. We go to, in the past, we went to One Infinite Loop. We went to whatever the theater was, and the Final Cut Pro team, the Final Cut Pro Apps team, give us a demonstration of whatever the latest version of Final Cut. Sometimes they have somebody up on stage that might have did a film or something. They might have new hardware up there demonstrating the latest and greatest. So hopefully they're going to do the same this time. But I'm hoping they're not going to show us 10.6.10 and say, this is the latest because we fixed the FX bug. Now, we've had 2 bugs that required bug fixes within 2 weeks. That's an all-time record for Final Cut. Right, it started in August. Was it 10.6.7 that caused, and then it was the bug, or was it 10.6.8? I think it was 10.6.7, and then they put out 10.6.8 to fix the bug in 10.7 within 2 weeks. And then they put out 10.9, and that introduced the FX bug, and they had another bug fix within 2 weeks. They've never done 2-week bug fixes before, and especially 2 in a row.
Well, yeah, well, look, it's pluses and minuses. I mean, it's unfortunate that they have had these bugs, which, are minor and don't affect everyone, but it's good that they were able to fix them quickly. I mean...
Yes, yeah. I agree. So the question is, fixing it quickly is excellent. That is absolutely excellent, not wait for like months before something else comes out. The question is, do you think if they had a wider beta Final Cut, they would catch some of these bugs maybe better? I'm thinking maybe the beta team is too small and they don't catch all these things.
I would say if FX Factory had access to an early release, they would have let Apple know. I mean, they basically knew it happened within seconds of it coming out.
So, Chris, don't you think that they're on the beta team? I would think they would be.
Well, I definitely don't think they had an early release of the release that came out that was buggy.
10.6.9 for them. It was 10.6.9.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, pretty sure they did not, because I'm an FX Factory developer. I get the emails, and it was almost the same kind of time that 10.6.9 came out, and there was an email from the FX Factory devs saying, unfortunately, there's this bug. Like, that was just instant. They both happened overnight. So, yeah, I can only presume that they weren't on a beta that gave them pre-release access to that. But to be fair, that is a pretty obscure bug.
Yes.
I don't know how that stuff sneaks through. But yeah, they would be the ones to spot that.
But I would think they're on a beta at some level. Maybe they just didn't get that version. But I would think that these plugin manufacturers would be on betas.
Well, as someone that makes a lot of plugins, I don't get any betas.
Yeah, but Chris, you're the naughty boy. You're not the friend. You're the guy who pokes around on the insides and says, "Hey, everyone, look at this stuff in here."
I'm pretty sure that's what every developer does.
Yeah, but they don't put it on the website for everyone to see necessarily.
That's true.
That's true. I should circle back to something I said earlier. There will be a visit to Apple Park. I can't guarantee Steve Jobs' theater because it's not in the thing I'm reading now, but I can confirm there is a visit to Apple Park on November 6th. It's an official word from someone at Apple. So that will be happening. We are going to get to go to the new campus.
Finally, because I pay attention to details, okay? They announced Apple Park in 2018 and they announced Apple Park in 2019, and then it didn't happen either time. This time, Apple Park's in the actual logo. I mean, it's the Apple Park is in the Final Cut Pro Creator Summit actual logo. So,
again, I'm keeping my expectations very tempered, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's just, well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed your visit to the parking lot at Apple Park.
Apple Park. English.
Apple Park. You parked at Apple Park. There you go.
Yes. Yeah, look, it could all change again. I do get the feeling at 2019 that it was supposed to happen, and then it didn't happen at the last minute. And then, like, very people have been inside Apple Park, and it would have been a big, newer thing. Now, thousands and thousands of people have been inside Apple Park, It's not quite such a big dedicated group of Final Cut people to be able to go there as well. So yeah, fingers crossed for Steve Jobs Theater, but as ever,
look at the logo. The logo is Apple Park. This is not one infinite loop.
Anyone could have made that logo, Richard. Who knows
That's
if they
true.
had or not.
That's true.
They could have had hope. They could have had a lot of hope.
That's true. That's very true. So the other thing is they still haven't announced the details of Apple Day, but I have inside information that's not been restricted to the public. And we got iJustine at 9 o'clock at the hotel for the keynote. There's a second presentation after iJustine that has not been announced, but there is a second presentation. Then there is lunch at the hotel. Then we go to Apple Park after lunch via buses. Now, in the past, it's always been 2 buses. I would say up to 150 attendees in those days. There might be more this time because it's only $299. I don't know. That is really good. The $299 price point is really, really good.
I do have a tiny bit of information to add to this, Richard. There will be a hands-on area on campus. I don't know what that means, but there will be a hands-on area on campus. So
but that's always been the case.
There has been, but I mean, there have been, but that's been at the traditional old one.
Yes.
The old campus. So,
yes.
Yeah. So
you're talking about Vision Pro. You little sneaky. You're talking about Vision Pro.
I wish I was. Look, the reality for me for Vision Pro is that because they're not going to be sold in Australia until 2025 probably, because they're going to be so expensive that, I just can't get my hands on one until probably 2025, at which point they'll probably be lighter and cheaper anyway. So
right, exactly. Exactly. I agree. So, Chris, what are you looking forward to at the summit the most?
I think it's mainly just meeting the community and also Team Apple. Yeah, it's probably less about the talks and more about meeting people that I've never met before, or re-catching up with people that I've met at previous NAB events. But yeah, I think that's the most exciting thing, is just seeing a whole lot of people that are excited.
Because I've met you at NAB, but that's not the same. NAB is not the same as the Creative Summit. Yeah,
NAB's massive. Everyone's always got a million meetings and dinners, and yeah, this will very much be just the Final Cut community. So yeah, there's lots of people. Like, I've never met the FX Factory people in person.
Okay.
We have emails all the time, but I've never met them in person, so that'll be awesome. And yeah, I'm sure there's heaps of other people that I communicate with on a daily basis, but I've never actually met in person.
Yeah. Well, Nicholas from FX Factory should be there. I don't know that Gabe's coming, but yeah, you will get to meet at least some of the FX Factory people. And yeah, no, it's going to be great. There's going to be lots of fun people. The thing which is going to be a shame, we're all older, Richard.
I know.
Getting older.
I know that.
Our hair is grayer, or there is less of it. And
yes.
Neither of these things are good.
No, I agree with that.
But look, it's going to be good anyway.
Well, I have the same amount of hair. I have more hair than I had before. My hair is one of my genetic blessings. And it's not too gray. It's got a little bit of gray, but it's not too bad. So I'm blessed in that department.
It looks distinguished.
Thank you.
You say genetic blessings. I think you've done a deal with the devil, Richard, because I skipped that deal, and the hair is not hanging around.
Well,
it's not good.
We're not going to discuss that, but I did not. If I was making a deal with the devil, it would be for music, like Robert Johnson going down to the crossroads. It would be something like that.
Although, yeah, I was saying to someone the other day that my body's giving out and getting old sucks, and they said, yeah, but the alternative is worse.
That's right. Absolutely, you're correct. Absolutely. So, Lee, you're talking about your YouTube channel. Your Tesla YouTube channel, is that what it is? How you accidental success or something like that?
Yeah, it's funny. I was it struck me back in December. I was invited to a press event for the launch of it. So I've got for those who aren't familiar, about a year and a bit ago. Well, actually, quite a bit of this is Ian's fault, because I'd always been interested in electric cars, and I'd always thought, I can't afford one, I'll never get one, and all that sort of stuff. And then Ian said, I'm getting a Tesla. You should get a Tesla. And I'm very susceptible to suggestions. And then Ian assisted. We did a shoot together in Queensland, and the client had a Tesla, and he drove us to the shoot, and that was kind of like, damn it, now I really want one. And through various different things, I was able to get one, and I had I'll try not to do my whole talk now, but so I'll try and do the abridged version. But basically, I had a couple of months between jobs. I hadn't shot a lot of car content, so I thought, just shoot some content, stick it up on YouTube. It'll be a bit of fun, and it kind of took off. And so, as I was saying, I was at a press event in December, and it was the first time someone described me as an EV influencer, and almost vomited in my mouth. And I said, please don't call me that. But it's been an interesting journey, and I suppose at some point it's sort of become a thing where now there's various different goals and thoughts and what have you, but one of my thoughts about it is to use this channel as a marketing tool for my production company, where it's getting enough views and it's getting enough attention, and just through the nature of the kind of content that I'm producing, I'm actually meeting some really interesting and well-connected people, networking really well, that I'm hoping that this will actually lead to production work as well, on top of learning this whole social media. I mean, I toy for a while about calling my session "How I Learned to Stop Being a Grumpy Old Man and Make the Funny Face thumbnails."
Right. Right. Look,
so that's the gist of it.
I've even started doing vertical videos. A few.
I know we've all got
a few. I know. I'm still not. I don't think they're the best thing in the world. But on Instagram occasionally, or I'm not on TikTok, but on Instagram, and I did a vertical video, just a quick one, a story in YouTube, and it's got more views than the horizontal one. So it's like, okay, it's what?
There's a guy at YouTube's headquarters called Al. His last name's Garitham. And yeah,
algorithm, right? Exactly. I have no. I can't. Whatever. I'll do a couple of verticals, but look, Ian and I both have this beautiful new. Do you have one of these, Lee? The 5515. Excellent. I am amazed at Apple log, ProRes log on this thing, the quality that it shoots. Now, obviously it's ProRes HQ, so the files are humongous. Now Blackmagic allows log to be shot in H.264 and H.265. I'm very, very anxious. Curious about how that is going to be. Now, I didn't see an option about 10-bit. I thought, is it automatically 10-bit in Blackmagic, Ian? Do you know?
Yeah, it is 10-bit. I can double check. I have some of this footage.
And I believe I was shooting some stuff on the weekend. And I believe you can also shoot in ProRes LT 422. You've got all the flavors of ProRes except for RAW in the Blackmagic app now, so you're not limited to ProRes HQ.
That's correct, but I guess the question for me was, somebody posted a clip and it was 10-bit. So I didn't see an option to go from 10 to 8-bit in the Blackmagic camera. That's what I was curious about. Is it automatically just 10-bit for H.264 and H.265?
I'd imagine so.
I believe it's going to be 10-bit in HEVC, probably 8-bit H.264. But I'm not sure. You can do 10-bit. You can do 10-bit H.264, but not every manufacturer likes it. It's kind of a bit non-standard. I know Lumix does it, but for a really long time, 10-bit H.264 was really slow and annoying to deal with. So I'm just going to find out. I'm just going to transfer that file I just shot. And we'll see.
And we will...
Yeah, the only downside... The only downside of HEVC is the data rate is too low, because it's like 20 megabit. It should really be 100 or 80 or something.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's really big with ProRes HQ, moderate with ProRes, okay with ProRes LT, but your quality might suffer. Skip ProRes proxy, HEVC. Really small, but then you don't need that external drive. If you're happy with the quality you get from HEVC, or you don't have it with you, absolutely go for that, because it'll be the best.
Chris, have you worked with Apple ProRes Log at all with any of your plugins? I'm not sure if it applies or not.
Not really. It's really unfortunate that ProRes RAW isn't open. Because I'd love to do basically what I did for Blackmagic RAW in Final Cut. I'd love to do the opposite and bring ProRes RAW to DaVinci Resolve. But it's a closed box. Whereas Blackmagic RAW, anyone can download the decoding SDK and build whatever you want with it. And obviously it's in so many apps like Edit Ready and Color Finale, Transcoder, and that sort of thing. But ProRes RAW, you need Apple's blessing, and I don't have Apple's blessing to play with ProRes RAW.
So
ProRes, the log obviously is just a LUT essentially, and then anyone that wants to develop their own iPhone app to access that, that's all publicly accessible. So yes, I could build a camera app like Blackmagic has, but yeah, there's very little point in doing that when Blackmagic's done such a good job.
They're amazing. I was completely flabbergasted when they introduced that at that live stream. I'm thinking, well, this looks really good. I hope it's not a subscription. I hope it's just like, $10 or $20, and then it was free. It was free. Yeah. It's
Australians. We're just really good.
They're really. I have nothing but accolades for Blackmagic. Every time they are constantly. They exceed my expectations by far with Resolve, with doing this camera app out of nowhere. I didn't see any leaks that this was coming. All of a sudden, Grandpatty just introduces it, and it's a fantastic application.
Yeah, Blackmagic's really solid, and a great example when we were talking about the Final Cut bug fix. Final Cut fixes something in a week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, and Blackmagic, they literally just last night turned around a bug fix for their major bug in an app. So they literally can turn around a bug fix in under 24 hours.
Wow.
And they do have the largest C++ development team in the Southern Hemisphere. They're the only company in this side of the world that builds their own operating system. So they built their own operating system for the Blackmagic cameras. And it also drives a lot of their other hardware as well. So
I see.
Whilst Apple builds their own operating system for obviously iPhone and iPad and Mac OS and that sort of thing, Blackmagic's doing the same stuff.
So, Ian, did you find out about that 10-bit?
I did. So yeah, plenty of useful things. The Blackmagic camera app is really good now. It's version 1.1 came out like a couple of days ago, and they fixed the major issue, which it did take them 2 weeks to fix, Chris, just to put a counterpoint to the Blackmagic is always
probably
awesome
waiting on app review.
This has been a... They absolutely could have been waiting on app review for sure. But no, they have fixed the issue with log preview, because essentially it was just blowing everything out. No matter what you did, no matter which preview LUT you used.
I did see that.
It all looked hyper bright. It doesn't do that anymore, so that's a massive fix. HEVC is 10-bit, H.264 is not. So you can check out QuickTime Player. The HEVC says 10-bit, the H.264 doesn't say anything, which presumably means it's 8-bit. Okay,
so use HEVC for sure.
As well as use HEVC for sure, but the data rate very low. Like this is 12 megabit. That's not enough. This is 4K, and it should be bigger than that.
But wait, the 10-bit is the 10-bit is that low?
The 10, yes. The
Wow.
H.264 is very slightly higher, about 14, but it's not great. Now, the other thing is, so this is in log, but the colors should look fairly normal, right? Now, the reason, I'll pop that back up again. So the colors should look fairly normal because I've got a preview LUT loaded. The LUT I have loaded is the official Apple log LUT, which you can get from Apple, but you need to go to the developer site, and you need to search for the right thing, and you need to download it. So if you don't want to bother with doing all of that, I have an article on Pro Video Coalition, which I think is linked at the moment. It's an update of an article I wrote like a week ago, Q&A for Apple. And in that, I've got a link to, so scroll on down near the bottom, and there is a link to where you can find it in the developer site. Well, you will need to be a developer to access that, I think. And there's also a link to the discussions where I found that, where somebody has helpfully just posted the LUT directly, so you wouldn't need to be a developer. So if you keep on going, just past all the stuff that I've crossed out because it's no longer relevant.
Gotcha.
No, just back up there a bit.
There you go.
Cool. Up. You were so that, there you go. Official Apple log LUT and a discussion around that LUT. So if you want the official Apple log LUT, it is available. Download it. You may or may not want to use it. I find it very useful in the Blackmagic app because it's the official way to make it look normal. And if you're doing fancy color corrections in Final Cut Pro, you've got two ways to apply a LUT. You've got the stuff in the inspector panel in the info section, so the info inspector. If you use a LUT there, it effectively applies the transform before it does any color correction.
Oh, okay.
Now, if you're doing advanced color correction, you probably don't want to do that. You probably want to apply the transform after you've done correction, because otherwise you can lose some highlights. And you can, in fact, lose highlights. I think technically maybe you shouldn't, but I've seen you can still lose highlights. So if this happens to you, turn off the Apple log in the info inspector, which you'll have to go to the settings view or the general view. It's not in the basic view there. Go to and turn off Apple log and then apply it as a log LUT later in the process, like a clip LUT or as an effect. And then you can use the official Apple log LUT if you want, or your choice of many log LUTs from many people who will want to sell you a collection of 6 LUTs for $99.
Yeah, I see that all the time. But here's the question though. So the Apple log LUT lives in Final Cut somewhere. Okay.
It does, but it's not officially a LUT. I remember asking somebody at one of the previous summits, like, is that LUT really a LUT? And apparently it's not stored as a .cube file.
I see.
The internal LUTs in FCP are encoded in a different way. So, no, you can't just rip them out of the app. Unless, Chris, you found a way to...
I was going to say, maybe Chris...
You're the guy who'd know.
No, I think, like you said, some of the LUTs are just LUT files, like camera and manufacturer LUTs are in one of the frameworks. But yeah, majority of the LUTs inside Final Cut Pro are all encoded within a framework as sort of like hard-coded stuff that you can't just take out a LUT file.
So don't go messing around looking for the LUT. That's what, yeah.
Yeah, and for anyone who's really curious about this, alongside the LUT, Apple have actually published a white paper about Apple log. So they actually give you the transfer functions which it is using. So super official, highly technical details, which very few people will understand, but colorists may appreciate. All of the optoelectrical transfer functions are fully disclosed for those who want to know.
Now, people talk about, and I don't know the answer to this, Apple log, I really like it. The limited amount that I've done just with using ProRes HQ on the Apple iPhone app has been amazing. The colors and stuff are just really, really good. So I'm excited about the Blackmagic being able to do that in H.264, even though the data rate is low. But people keep asking about Apple RAW. Can a phone do Apple RAW at any point? It doesn't seem like it. The sensors
in stills.
Only in stills.
Yeah, there's no ProRes RAW format. I suspect they'd fall foul of Red's patents, just like everybody has. And until Nikon go ahead with their lawsuit next year, we won't know if anyone will be able to do RAW in camera other than.
I see. You think that's what it is?
That's
the
issue.
Is it technically possible to do, is it worthwhile to do RAW from a phone sensor? I guess that's the question, versus log.
I guess there's no difference between, I mean, it's the same argument for a camera. Is there a difference between shooting RE RAW versus ProRes 444 with a log C LUT on Alexa? For 99% of the world, no, they're pretty much the same result. But if you're working on a multi-billion-dollar Hollywood film, maybe that extra little bit of latitude you get from RE RAW's worth it. I
see. So it's not even that much of a difference.
I think it may be that you miss out on some of the processing that would be helpful if you just take the image straight from the sensor. Now, probably the biggest thing which Apple ProRes log on the iPhone has actually brought us is less processing. Because the number one thing,
yes,
always
absolutely,
been a problem, no matter which app you use, has been the over sharpening, and that is what we do not have with the ProRes log. It just skips that whole step, and it's doing less tone mapping, less kind of auto contrasty adjustment. So you just get a much more useful image, which just makes such a massive difference. Even if you're not into color correction, if you don't care about, dealing with log or shooting in log. If you care about over sharpening, if it has ever bothered you, you should be using log. Even if you just apply a LUT to de-logify it, it is so much nicer to deal with from that point of view. And it's just such a shame that we just flick it, because that's all I want. I don't care about log. I don't particularly care about ProRes. In this particular context, it's a phone, right? It doesn't have that much storage.
Right.
But being able to turn off sharpening is what I've wanted. It is something I've requested, and it only took several years and hundreds of people asking. But hey, we got there! Yay! So
now the other question is, since Blackmagic has this extremely sophisticated iPhone camera app, and I've heard Apple's excuse why they don't do their camera app with more controls, because they don't want to. They want just a regular user to be able to press a button and then go. They don't want all this, which I don't believe that nonsense. I mean, for years they said, this is what they said about the Lightning port. Oh, it would cause too much waste. They said, we're not going to switch it over because it would cost too much, waste with cables and stuff. Well, what's the difference between now and 2023? Then in 2023, it's the same amount. That's just a nonsense excuse. It's just really nonsensical.
It's the EU.
They do have
They
what
had
they
to.
internally call the Pro camera in Final Cut Pro for iPad.
Right.
So that is their Pro camera app. It just doesn't work on iPhone.
But I guess the
it will.
point, that's what I'm hoping. The point is that, number one, is I wouldn't care if they charge $4.99 for a Pro camera app. That would be fine. Don't do a subscription for the Pro camera app. But the fact that it exists inside of Final Cut for iPad, and every other third-party app has had access to all these camera features for years, white balance and ISO and shutter speed and all this stuff. So it's there. It's not hardware dependent. It's just...
I think they're just happy with some things to leave it to third parties, because that's what makes the Apple platform so compelling. They want Blackmagic to push boundaries.
And particularly with, I'd imagine that there is so much, let's call it conservatism within Apple's psyche about, because I mean, the iPhone is the most popular product that Apple makes. It is their cash cow. You really don't want to do anything that's going to mess that up. And most people, the vast majority of people who use iPhone are not us. The vast majority of people who use iPhone are my mother.
Sure.
And my mother should not be allowed near I love her dearly, but she should not be allowed near white balance. And so I actually think that comparing it to Lightning to USB-C, it's not the same thing. And
Okay.
I can absolutely understand why Apple would be exceptionally hesitant to do anything that makes any of the native apps on iPhone different or potentially too complicated for everyday people. So
Okay.
I get where they're coming from.
No, two things. Number one, you can hide the complex features. Okay, the way in Logic you have a panel, you can actually check on advanced features. You don't need them, but if you want them, you know where they are. Or just give us a Pro camera app.
Okay, so the Pro camera app, I think that's a valid point. In terms of hiding the features, I don't know about any of you fine gentlemen, but if you do any tech support for members of your family, I'm sure you've gotten a phone call at some point going, I pushed a button, I don't know what I've done.
Okay. They see for Final Cut all the time. Why does my timeline look like this? Whatever.
So, yeah,
Except I do
that's
it
fine.
to my daughters and go, kids, Why is my iPhone? How do I get the photo thing to do the photo thing?
Yeah, I can see my mother calling me going, why
That's
can't I
okay.
take photos anymore?
Okay, then just give us a pro camera app. Give us a pro
They
camera app.
have. All you have to do is
Well,
pay the subscription for Final Cut Pro for
yeah.
iPad, and you got it.
I am not going to film with an iPad. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. Walking around with an iPad filming it? No, I'm not doing that. Stationary
Okay,
stationary
here's
for a shoot.
What if I built
I have
a
a
rig that you
counterexample
could
for
put
you.
around the iPad that makes it look like an Arri Alexa? And then
No.
it just looks like you've got an Alexa on your shoulder.
Well, I have a counterexample for you, Richard. If
Okay.
you set up your phone and you connect a hard drive and you plug it in,
Yes.
you can set the Blackmagic app to record straight to that hard drive.
Yes.
Now, I haven't tried this in the latest 1.1, but if you then pull out the hard drive, the Blackmagic camera app, because it's pro app with pro features, will not automatically switch to a device it has access to. So it will record nothing. So
Well, that's not
the
good.
problem with pro apps. No, but that's the problem with pro apps. I mean, for an awful lot of people, pro means all the options do nothing I haven't told you to do. And it won't automatically recognize and suggest a solution. That's what Apple apps need to do. So if you were to, pull out a hard drive while something's recording, and, don't do that, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then, you'll probably lose that recording, but the camera app won't skip a beat. The camera app, the official camera app, doesn't even tell you when your hard drive isn't fast enough to record what you're trying to record. It'll happily just record but missing frames. That's kind of bad. And I think it is doing a little speed test to make sure as soon as you plug it in, I think it writes a couple of files and does a little check and does a little handshake. But I've experienced to record 4K 60 through a hub, it just drops frames. If you use the wrong cable, if you get a hard drive that's nearly full, you can have a bad experience. So, Apple don't want people to have a bad experience with their stuff. And the camera app is actually really complicated already. There's a whole bank of controls that most people never see because they're pretty well hidden. So, look, they could do it. They could hide it in the settings app. I would like an option to use less than ProRes HQ for log. Like even ProRes 422 would be a more manageable data rate.
Or
ProRes LT would be nice. HEVC at 100 megabit would be fantastic.
Well,
Please.
that's what I was going to ask you.
GX6 can do it. That'd be great.
Since Blackmagic has already shown that can be done, maybe Apple will add that option?
Well, I don't think so, because I think it's just an API which says record in this codec. You don't get to choose the data rate necessarily. Now, I know people have done that. So Filmic Pro let you choose the data rate for various things, but presumably there's a limitation which lets you not do that, or maybe it's not as reliable as doing it the Apple way, and that's why Blackmagic don't want to do it. I mean, all of these things which we suggest and we say, oh, look, surely it should be able to work like this. I can guarantee you someone on the team thought about that, asked about it, and there was a reason, good, bad, extremely sensible, nonsensical, whatever, where someone said, yeah, I can't do that. It's going to confuse 10% of people. Or can't do that, it fails 1 out of 100 times. Or can't do that because I know this guy and he doesn't want us to do that. Who knows? We're just guessing. But
No, of course.
Yeah, look.
Except for Chris. Chris knows.
Does things better than.
Chris knows.
Yeah, Blackmagic app is great. It is great now. I would recommend doing what I have done, which is to set up your action button to do different things based on how it's held. So if I do it while it's vertical, it will go into the Photos app. If I do it while it's horizontal this way, it goes into the Blackmagic app. Did it? No. That's okay. So this way it goes into the Photos app that records video. And if I do it the other way, it goes into the Blackmagic app.
It needs your passcode.
This is the theory. It doesn't need a passcode, does it? Okay. So you get the idea.
Yes.
You can set it up to do different things based on how you're holding it. It's highly technical. but it does work. It's quite good.
So what are you doing at the Creative Summit, Ian? You doing more than one presentation?
I'm doing 3 presentations, Richard. I am doing 3. I am talking about how to hook in hardware devices. So I'll be talking about how to use a tangent ripple, and a monogram console, and a MIDI thing, and also fancy weird things you can do with keyboards. I will be doing another session on how to use 360-degree cameras for regular flat deliveries. And what was the other one that I was doing? I should know all of this. I am doing a session on how to create 3D models to demo products that don't exist yet without using Blender, because Blender is the devil. So how to create a 3D model from regular artwork using, say, Adobe Illustrator and Reality Converter, and then how to animate that in motion and have a good time, and also how to use 3D text and 2D elements, and depending on the kind of thing you need to demo, that may be enough. But yeah,
and then Chris is on a panel. Chris is on. He got corralled. He got corralled in keeping content relevant. Expert panel on digital storytelling.
That's all I can tell you.
Yeah, I got corralled into one of those panels in 2019 or 2018. Jeff Greenberg said, "Hey, you're on this panel." I said, "Okay, that's fine. Whatever it was, I don't remember what it was. I don't mind being on a panel. I don't like doing presentations because that requires work. It requires a lot of work. I mean, when I used to do, I've taught for FMC as a certified instructor, and you got to stand in front of a class for 8 hours a day, 2 or 3 days in a row. You got to stand in front of the class.
And you have to prepare.
You've got to be prepared. You got to have notes. You got to anticipate questions. It's a lot of work for me. That's just the way I do it. I don't know if you do it that way, Ian, or not.
Well, this is about a quarter of my life is teaching people in classes. So yeah, I'm completely comfortable with that, and it's fun. You get used to it. It's good.
Oh, I got used to it for sure. But I'm just saying, when I prepare a course, once I was done preparing a course, I'm fine. I could teach the course for years. But it's the preparation for me to prepare the course, to have everything in front of me outlined, linked to more expansive information, anticipating questions. And once the course is done, I'm fine. But just like if I was going to present at the Creative Summit, I'd have to do the same thing for just for an hour, not for 8 hours. But it's work. I don't want work. I want to go to Creative Summit and have fun. So I might end up on a panel. Who knows? Jeff a lot of times tags me for something.
Cool.
I'm a similar way where I every time I'm going to the summit, okay, this time I'm going to prepare well in advance. In fact, right now in front of me, there is a Pages document with my notes for my presentation. And the plan is that by the time I get on the plane, the keynote is built, the slides are done, my notes are done, I'm ready to go. That's the theory. Let's see how it works out.
Right. That's the theory. So all of you have these 19-hour plane rides to get there? Something like that?
It's like 15 or 16. It's
15,
you blink
okay.
and you're there.
Yeah. Mine is 5 hours, and I just...
Well, yeah. Well, I'm heading to
Chris,
New York first. I'm having a week off in New York first, and then I'm going to do your 5-hour flight from New York to San Francisco.
And I've got some time in LA before I come up. Chris, Ian, are you both flying direct?
I'm going Melbourne to San Fran, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's about as direct as you can.
Yeah, no,
I'm actually flying in.
It's a direct flight for me, so.
Right. I'm actually flying into Oakland this time because it's the only direct flight for me from BWI. It's just across. It's about the same distance as SFL because I've gone in. Yeah, it's just a highway down. But there's in 2019, San Jose was direct flight, but not anymore. And I don't like going up and going down and going up and going down. Just once is plenty for me. So I'll take the longer distance from the airport rather than have to go up and down twice.
I'm actually driving up from LA.
Are you?
Yeah.
In your Tesla. You ship your Tesla over with you?
Well, no, no, someone else's Tesla. So yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's all about creating content these days. Ugh, what have I become?
The hotel that we're staying at, I presume all you're staying at the Aloft, Santa Clara, because that's where FMC is putting up everybody, presenters and their staff and stuff. It's about a mile away from the where the presentations are. So they're not providing a shuttle bus. Everybody's on their own to get down there. So it's either you walk for 15, 20 minutes for the mile, or everybody can team up and get Ubers to go down there. So I'm looking at, because I'm going to put together a list of resources for each location. There's not that many restaurants and stuff at either one of those two places. They're like hotel restaurants only, where in Cupertino, when we stayed at the Juniper, there are dozens of places to eat. This is more restrictive, so people should be aware of that. Not that it's bad, but I'm just saying it's expensive because it's hotel, and there's not as much variety unless you want to go out like a mile or so. So just be aware of that. I bring my own coffee set up with me for my hotel room because I don't want to have to get up and get dressed to go get a cup of coffee. I want to get up and be all messy and make my coffee in my room, drink my coffee, then I'll get dressed and get ready for the real world. I don't want to have to shuttle around. Where am I going to get my coffee first thing in the morning? I want it right there in the hotel room. That's number one next to my camera gear.
Well, the thing is, you're missing out then, Richard, because you're not going to make it to Phil's Coffee. Now, of course, this time, none of us are going to make it to Phil's Coffee because
that
was near the Juniper. But that was a fun thing. I remember Steve Martin playing the Pied Piper and leaving a little merry band of us over to Phil's Coffee, where we were all introduced to our personal servers and we got to drink some nice coffee, and that was fun. So that's an unusual experience for us. But yeah, no, I don't know how it's going to work this time. I think it's going to require a little bit more planning. But I think we need a merry band of people walking from the Aloft down to where we're going to present from. Because, we can talk in an Uber or we can talk as we walk. It doesn't matter.
No. Right.
It's fun. It'll be fun.
My normal day, except for today, because you guys got me early, my normal day is I get up, make coffee, feed the cats, check the internet, and then I go out for a 2-mile walk 7 days a week. 7 days a week. So that's half of what I normally do. It's only 1 mile, so that's fine. But I have to see. It depends what time I wake up, what time I got to get there, whether I take an Uber, team up with somebody, or just do the walk. If I have plenty of time, I'll just do the walk now. 15, 20 minutes, whatever it takes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with jet lag, we'll have time to do the walk. We will be awake.
Everybody's getting in on Sunday, I presume.
Yeah, someone will have to drag us back up the hill, but I'm getting in on the Saturday night.
Are you?
Yeah, Saturday for me as well.
Is it a hill? Yeah. Is it a hill going from the Aloft? I'm hoping it's flat.
It was a turn of phrase. I have no idea.
Yeah. I'm hoping it's flat. I don't want to be walking up. Yeah, that's what I hope. It's only 1 mile. But I've been checking. So when I get there, I have to check. I have to get half and half for my coffee. That's one of the primary things. So I got to find a location that has half and half.
Just so you're aware, half and half is an American thing. The rest of the world does not have half and half.
Okay.
Like, we just have milk. And people don't usually have cream in their coffee. And they certainly don't have half cream, half milk. No.
Sure they do. No, yes, cream. It's coffee and coffee and cream, not coffee and milk. Milk is too watery. But regardless of that, I use cream here at the house.
Your use coffee cream. Is too watery, perhaps. Not your personal coffee, but American coffee is.
Not mine. Yeah, not mine. Mine is so strong it melts the container it's in. I use double espresso shots for 2 espresso shots for each cup of coffee. It's very, very, because I like putting cream in it, so I like the coffee to be strong. So it's not. I don't like watery coffee. Chris, do you drink coffee? I don't even know.
I do, but not that kind of coffee.
We Melbourneites are very snobby about our coffee.
Right, you should be. That's a plus. That's a plus.
Ian,
Tell me.
Ian, have you ever drunk Turkish coffee?
I probably have. Yes, I probably
That'll
have.
keep you awake. That'll keep you awake for a week.
Right.
Because when they give it to you, it's in a little cup, and it's a little bit of that, because that's all you need.
Right. Do you put a little bit of sugar in it, or just drink it straight?
The sugar will just make it angry.
So when I first was exposed to good coffee, which was I went to Paris with Cub Coda, the singer-songwriter from the Brownsville station, Smoking in the Boys' Room, that guy. We were friends, and he produced my first record, and he had an album on New Rose Records over in Paris, and I went over with him just to support being his band and stuff. And that coffee was phenomenal. That was in the mid-'80s. And it was, I don't know, I think we had Cafe Ole. We went to the cafe the first night we were there. We stayed there for hours drinking coffee, which was a big mistake because we couldn't fall asleep afterwards. But the taste of that coffee was phenomenal. And that's when I really, really appreciated coffee. So back in those days, they didn't have that kind of coffee in the States, except for occasional espresso places or cafes, because there was no Starbucks and all in those days. So I came back looking for it, and I really couldn't find it. So in Melbourne, what kind of coffee do you guys use? What kind do you like? Strong coffee?
You get pretty much everything here. A lot of people will blend their own. A lot of people will roast their own. It's almost like the like how the beer industry has developed, where you've got all these little breweries and they make these funky little things. The coffee culture in Melbourne's been around for forever, and it is broad and a big church. I will mention also I don't drink coffee, so I'm talking out my ear. All my friends drink coffee, so I'm familiar with the things that they say, but I have no idea what I'm talking about.
There you go. Well, I don't drink beer at all, so I don't drink for no reason other than I never developed a taste for it. I got drunk once when I was a teenager, and that was plenty.
Chris, you could probably speak more to coffee.
I really can't. I'm really good at talking sides of Final Cut and the nerdy stuff, but yeah, no. I like good coffee, and there's lots of good coffee everywhere. But I guess I'm spoilt in that our office is in Collingwood, and every second shop is an amazing coffee shop. Very expensive now, but yeah, I think Melbourne definitely has some of the best coffee in the world, I would say.
So
especially as we've got good water, like everywhere in Australia, like the water is just great, just out of the tap, and I think that sort of helps.
And it does. Oh, water makes the biggest difference in coffee. In Cupertino, when we were there, one of the summits, I think must have been 2018, I went across the street. There was a whole food market kind of a place called Sprouts. It's like, earthy, crunchy, hippie kind of a place where they have whatever, good food. And one time for my coffee, I got spring water. And boy, that made the worst coffee in the world. And I didn't understand why the coffee tasted so bad. It's because it's got whatever gunk in it for health reasons, and it made the coffee taste bad. Then I realized, no, I want plain water, just plain whatever water you got, and so it doesn't influence the flavor of the coffee. I made that mistake one time. I couldn't figure it out. Why does coffee taste so bad? It was a stupid spring water.
Sprouts is the place where Lee and I failed to help John Cleese to get tonic water because we were in there
for his coffee.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was looking for a G&T, but he was looking for tonic. And yeah, it wasn't the easiest thing to find, and we couldn't help him find it any quicker than he found it himself. But we certainly did try.
Right.
And then, he was leaving, so of course we had to leave as well and stand in the queue next to him. That was a fun day.
Yeah, I remember he was
at. You can expect to randomly happen at this.
He stayed at the Juniper
Creative Summit.
It was a 2017 or 2017, I think. Is when he
No,
was
that
there.
was, I think that was 2018 or 2019, and I didn't feel
It
at
wasn't
all creepy about the
2019,
photos that I
maybe
took of him
20
with Ian.
It wasn't 2019. It might have been 2018. 2018 is also when iJustine was there, which she's coming back again for the keynote this year.
If you're coming to the summit, you can come up to me and ask me to show you the creepy photos that I got of Ian and John Cleese.
Ah,
Please look at a bad photo of me with John Cleese, because it's me with John Cleese.
A blurry photo of
I can,
John
I can
Cleese.
take it. It's fine.
And it's taken from hip high from me, so, which is like practically on the ground.
Yeah.
I got a picture of Cleese going across the lobby of the Juniper. I got my camera out real quick. He was walking across with whoever he was
and then
with.
Ian and I ended up in the elevator
Yeah.
with him.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. We definitely jumped in that elevator as well. So yes. And I think that's because then that was the third time we'd run into him. He was actually a bit more friendly to us.
Yeah. He said, well, I guess you guys are not stalking me since we're running into each other all over the place.
Thank goodness he didn't see the photos.
Dear.
Well, that's true. So going back to the Creative Summit, what some people, if you've never been there before, don't realize is there's two tracks, all except for the panels. There's two tracks, and you have to decide, like this very first one, you got to decide whether you go with Mark Spencer or Steve Martin. You don't get to go to both.
Yeah.
You got to go one or the other. So all the way through, as a matter of fact, in 2017, maybe 2016, there were 3 panels you had to choose from. There were 3 panels, not just 2. So two's more reasonable. Now here we got a TBD, to be determined, and this expo night is a lot of fun. That's where all the vendors and stuff are there showing their wares. And then this is really exciting. This, besides going to Apple Park, to me, never been to Apple Park, it's worth the $2.99 just to get in to go in Apple Park, right? That to me it is. So I don't know how else I'd get there. Yeah. But dialogue with Apple
I think
Q&A with the Final Cut Pro team is also a big, big highlight. Right?
Yeah,
If it's like
that's always
sessions
fun.
they've done before, it'll be a kind of a private session. Like what happens in that session stays in that session, kind of.
Oh, I'm sure it will be.
Yeah, the Apple
I'm sure
Park,
it will be.
yeah, the Apple Park thing will be good, and I'm sure for diehard Apple fans, I mean, I'm surprised that like it isn't a big thing on say MacRumors.com where someone might have just made a post. Hey, does anyone want to just come to Apple to go to this session? You don't have to stay for the other 2 days of the conference. Like I'm sure there would be some people who would do that, but I haven't seen anyone posting the idea.
Well, it is
it should come to the
$2.99
conference,
though.
'cause
It
it's
says $2.99. No, if you're local to the area, for sure. If you don't got to pay airfare in a hotel. But I know what you're saying. But to me, it's going to Apple Park is how else would I ever get there? I mean, yeah, me and Tim Cook are good friends, but he's never invited me to his office. So he calls every once in a while, but there's no way for me to get there. So I'm really excited, especially since we've been promised it twice before, and they both were retracted at the last minute. Probably whatever scheduling something. Maybe it wasn't approved by the right people. So I'm really excited about that, but also going to a dialogue with the Apple team, Pro Apps team, is a big deal because it is a private session. It is not for the general public. It's for people. Look, we're paying the money, some of us, hotel, some people, airfare, and the $2.99. It's a commitment, and you're taking off work. So it's a financial commitment to get to the Creative Summit. So this Q&A with the Apple Final Cut is one of the perks of doing that. This is not meant for the general public.
Can I also just, at the risk of grumpy old man, stop it, Chris. Can I say one thing? If you're coming to the summit and you're coming to the Apple talk, do not bother asking them when something's coming out. They're not going to tell you.
No, of course not.
Don't
Absolutely not.
Don't waste your question on that.
No. So in the past, they let us do some questions in advance. We could submit them in advance in the past, and then we can ask them live questions. You can ask them anything you want, but that doesn't mean they're going to answer. People think the same thing when I say, submit your bug reports or your requests to this form. Well, I did that, but they never got back to me. That's not what it is. It's not a direct relationship with the people. It's just to give them the information, and they do what they want with it. They do read every one of those.
I will say, though, if you do use the feedback assistant, which is like a way of filing bug reports, let me just have a look here. Like, you do get responses from Apple. Like, I've got a heap of feedback on various feature requests, bug reports, and they
definitely do read them.
Yeah, they read them.
And you do see, like in feedback assistance, you get like a resolution, like you can see similar reports. The IDs are similar reports. Some of my issues are being closed. There's discussions. So yeah, Apple definitely does read everything. And I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure when you submit feedback through Final Cut or through the website, it basically goes into Feedback Assistant as well. So yeah, Apple definitely reads everything. Everything gets tracked. And yes, you do get responses. A lot of the time, like a lot of the stuff I report, they already know because it's common stuff. But then like a lot more geeky things about FX plug problems or really obscure bugs and that sort of thing, I'll get messages saying, hey, give us a sample project, or we can't reproduce this here, tell us how to do it, and that sort of thing. So yeah, Apple definitely do listen and definitely do react.
They do read everyone for sure. So I got a question you might know, Chris. So you could submit bug reports through the Apple portal for Final Cut. When the general dialog comes up, when Final Cut Pro crashes and you send that report, that goes to a general Apple crash report, I presume, not directly to the Final Cut Pro team. They may get it, but I presume it's two different locations.
Yeah, when any application crashes, so for example, if you crash DaVinci Resolve or whatever, if the app is on the App Store, then the developer will be able to see all those crash reports through Xcode. So the Final Cut team in Xcode, they would be able to, it would have all the crash logs through that system, but only through the App Store. Okay. And that's why third parties have their own crash and analytics sort of stuff.
No, that's good. That's what I presumed it went to a different place rather than directly to the Final Cut Pro team, which seems like that's what the web page and from within Final Cut seems like it goes directly to them.
Yeah, the way I understand it is if you use the web form, which is also the feedback form from the thing, basically goes into someone's inbox, they sort it, read it, and then file a feedback or a duplicate if it's already been filed away. And that's what the Final Cut management use to determine what they're going to do next, because they can see, all right, this request has been requested 10,000 times. Let's finally give them a scrolling timeline.
Or dupe detection took 12 years.
Yeah.
You know, how many times have I heard that ad nauseum? As a matter of fact, it was mentioned in 2019 or 2018. Yes, we know about dupe detection. We know about dupe detection.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I did a video of the 2019 summit, which was just come out today, so you can search for that. It'll be part of the summit website eventually. But yeah, I did. There is a reference to dupe detections because Gabe mentioned it. Not Gabe from FX Factory. Gabe who used to be on Get a Grip. Gabe, and yeah, I had to put that in because it's like, I think that was the year where there was somebody going around making a video with a lot of people about their opinions on dupe detection and why we should have it. I don't know if that video ever saw the light of day, but I'm sure it got sent to some people at Apple. And hey, 2 years later, we got dupe detection.
So 12 years. 12 years.
Yeah, you complain for 12 years, make a video about it, you'll get the feature. That's it. That's all we have to do.
Well, plus Lee was asked by Michael Yanovich about deep detection in my documentary, right? Remember that? Did you see it?
I do. Oh wait, I'm black. Yeah, I do remember it. It's because I think it was Chris Fenwick who was putting that video together, and yeah, he sort of ran around and got every one of us to just look at the camera and go, "Where's my dupe detection?"
Right.
Now, I said to him in the final cut, there should be at least 3 or 4 times where he repeats someone to show the need for dupe detection. He went in a different creative direction, which is fine. But yeah, Ian, I think you're right. It was Chris's video that crossed the line.
Well, one of the things that the team says when we bring up requests, well, tell us why you want that. You know something? Dupe detection is a standard all across the industry. Every other NLE has it. We really don't have to tell you why we need that. You should just...
and not necessarily with dupe detection. And I've done this speech many times, so forgive me for repeating it. But I think something that Apple does phenomenally well, and I've seen this with conversations that I've had with Apple people at the summit over the years, is they will say, okay, what's this feature? Okay, this feature that you want, why do you want it? Why do you need it? What do you need that feature to do? Because very often, a whole bunch of us will be saying, we want this button that does this. And Apple is very good at looking at it and going, okay, we could give you a button that does that, but what if we find a better way of getting you to the end result that you need that button to get you to? And I do think that Apple does that exceptionally well a lot of the times, where everyone says we want a button that does X, and they'll give us a solution to get us to Z.
Sure. No, I understand that. But since I keep track of these things, 12 years for dupe detection, it took 5 years to get remove attributes. These are things that are kind of basic that should have been, look, the first version of Final Cut didn't have multicam. 10.0 took 10 point, it was a 10.0.3 that came out.
Yeah, it was
10.0.3, yeah.
It's software is hard.
Yes, it is. I understand.
I'd imagine Chris could speak to this a lot. I
think someone hard.
Someone described it to me. I think the best description I had was when someone described to me the reason why Apple OS 10 from OS 7, 8, and 9, and they said basically OS 7 was like a ball made out of leftover gum, and then 8 was they just added more gum to it. It's a gross thing, but it'll make sense. And then 9 was just they added more gum, and then you've just got this whole ball of gum. Now it's got hairs stuck to it. Things are gross. It's disgusting.
Gross.
and you're just adding more things to it. Where they went, you know what? We're just gonna get rid of the whole ball of gum, and we're gonna start a new ball of gum. And particularly now, if you think like Final Cut's been around for a long time now. Now, I'm not saying Final Cut's a big ball of gum with hair growing out of it. Certainly not. It's a lovely ball of gum with glitter all over it. But any software development, and again, I haven't done a lot of it, but I'd imagine software development is like a game of Jenga and Tetris at the same time, where while you're juggling, where you go, oh, I'll just add this feature. And somehow adding that feature has broken something over there, with that feature has got nothing to do with the things over there. And now you've got to work out, how did that feature break that? And so, it's very easy for all of us to go, they should just do it. And then they try and do it, and they're like, oh, that didn't work out very well. So I'm appreciative of the challenges that the developers face.
I agree. And I realize that software...
Sorry,
Go ahead,
is it
Ian.
like Jenga or gum, or is it a ball of gum Jenga?
Well, no, Jenga would be easier with the
easy game of Jenga.
Yeah, that
if
would
the
make
gum is all
Jenga
sticking
easier if
together.
you had the gum. Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right.
It's okay.
So do any of you use DaVinci Resolve on a serious basis? I do.
Yeah, I mean, we use DaVinci Resolve for specific things. We don't really edit on it. because it's not as fun as editing in Final Cut. But yeah, DaVinci Resolve will definitely use it for various things, especially when there's lots of editors now that will be editing projects in DaVinci Resolve. So we've definitely finished a few long form projects that have come to us in DaVinci Resolve for color and finishing and delivery. But yeah, for day-to-day editing, we all prefer just editing in Final Cut, and there's no real limit.
Yeah.
It's easy to get from Resolve to Final Cut, so there's nothing really holding us back to do the fun, creative stuff in Final Cut.
No, I agree that Final Cut is absolutely more fun, but more and more. I mean, who doesn't have text-based editing and who doesn't have auto captions? Only Final Cut. Everybody else has it. They've had it since NAB 6 months, so I'm sure that's got to be coming. In the Final Cut. That's got to be like the number one thing that's coming whenever they do a 10.7 or whatever.
I think for that,
Well,
I think with a lot of things with Apple, the reason that it always takes like 5 to 10 years longer than you think it will. And the reason for that is they've got so many projects they're working on that will impact things. And I think the text-to-speech stuff and all that kind of machine learning-based stuff, it's waiting on hardware and it's waiting on their machine learning technology. And I don't think we'll see it in Final Cut until we see it in the wider Apple. Until Siri is good, we won't see Final Cut doing the same thing.
Well, that's going to be forever, Chris. Siri's been out there forever. It's not been good.
Well,
It'll be...
the counter... Yeah, there is a counterexample is that we got voice isolation before DaVinci. And so sometimes Apple does get there first. Voice isolation is fantastic, and I would use that more than I'd use transcription, probably. But look, the truth is you can spend less than $20 and get a really excellent transcription service. I hope that Apple is waiting on the system transcription that is as good as Whisper, because now that Whisper.ai is out there, they're not going to release something that's worse. I don't know. I think licensing will probably allow them to use Whisper, but again, any AI system that hallucinates, maybe Apple is being extra careful about that because you don't want it to make up something, which, the Adobe Podcast solution will make up words if you feed it static. That's the thing. That's the problem with some of these solutions. They're a little weird, and I'm guessing Apple's being cautious about most of these AI things. But yeah, look, we'll get stuff. It may not be the stuff you want. It won't be the stuff that everyone else gets at the same time as everybody else gets it. What I would really like is if we can just get an auto transcript of every clip we import. Maybe Apple can do something far more useful with that. And I don't even really care if that is text-based editing as such, because to me that's useful for some kinds of edits. It's very useful for documentarians who can then find out when a thing was said. It's useful for clients who want to be able to do a quick cut based on text, but it doesn't help you differentiate which was a good cut, which was a bad cut, or hear the emotion in someone's voice. It is not a panacea for every kind of editing. It won't be useful in every job. Being able to create good captions is useful in every job, or should be. Right. But I would rather see automatic categorization of clips on import alongside the transcription, because Apple have a heap of that tech, more advanced than the other NLE makers, and a UI with keywords that's actually able to hold that information. Resolve has just inched a tiny bit closer to clip-based keywords, but that's neither Premiere nor Resolve really have anything like that. Nobody's complaining about, where's our keywords in Resolve and Premiere, Final Cut's had. Everyone just, we change demand thing, and it just gets louder from the din of everyone asking the same thing repeatedly. Sometimes it's a thing we all should have, and sometimes it's a thing which people just want. Now, to be fair, I've wanted transcription and text-based editing for a really, 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 really long time, because I asked Roger to do it, which is, and then he went and made something that this is Roger from Cormel. And,
right.
That's why Scribe-O-Matic, or one of the reasons why Scribe-O-Matic existed. I'm sure it wasn't just made for me. I'm sure Roger found a commercial, imperative that it would be a good idea to do it. But, I was saying, could we do this? And obviously, Builder has been around for ages.
Right.
So we have text-based editing today from the nice people at Intelligent Assistance. If you would
Yes.
like to explore that,
Right.
so I'm sure Apple is just waiting to do it better than everybody else, and they haven't done that yet.
Am
Well-
I dreaming something? But didn't the Clips app have some sort of captioning thing in it? Or am I
Yeah, it does
thinking of something
auto
else?
captioning. Yep.
It does. It does.
So
but
see, if we
iMovie
just
also
all
had,
shoot
auto
vertical,
white
problem
balance
solved.
and ducking.
Yeah, I don't think we're all going to start shooting vertical. Not. I have a very specific niche that I shoot vertical. Instagram, obviously. I think is that square or vertical? I think it's vertical, right? So
This week.
this week, yeah, whatever. But I got my Lumix S5 Mark II X that I absolutely love. It's a beast in low light, a little bit below Sony, Lee, just a little bit, and it's really
You mean this camera?
yeah. If that you got two of them, see, look at that. And also, the autofocus is fantastic. Once again, it may be a little bit below Sony, but it's
It's a fair bit below Sony with the autofocus.
Well, I've seen videos go both ways on YouTube that show that it's better, and I've seen it. But I'm going to, since it's version 1, so I would just intellectually think one is probably a little bit better. But it's dramatically better than anything else that Panasonic has put out prior. Period. The
Low bar.
Well, if
autofocus
we're
is.
comparing the size of cameras, I mean, I just have to bring up this thing.
What is that?
No compensation there, Ian.
Is that an Insta something? Insta 360?
Insta 360 Go 3, which is the
Go 3.
smallest camera that I've ever
Okay.
owned. It's quite good, but yeah, sorry, it's not as
Is it
does not
4K?
produce- It's very useful for unique. No, it's 2.7K across.
Okay.
But it's not meant to compete with an S5 Mark II. Absolutely not. But for what it does, it's great. And it's got, an extra little pod, and these will wirelessly work. So you can mount this somewhere with its magnets
Right.
and then put this somewhere else with its little flippy screen and watch what you're doing and then press record on one device. It's very cool. It's a unique little gadget.
It's got a cool thing
Anyway,
that you can
it's
attach
fine.
to a hat, so you can get like POV stuff. Or you get a little magnet pendant, and you can just stick it to your chest, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool as well.
Yeah. So here's a thing.
So when I was doing some tests with my Lumix Mark II X, S5 Mark II X, and I have 2 prime lenses. There you go. Just use double stick tape or a Velcro.
There's the thumbnail. There's your thumbnail, Richard.
Yes. We got our comment here, boys with toys, of course. So what we're doing on here. So I did a test with my Lumix S5 S1. I have one of those too. I really like that. It's like Gumby control. But I use it with my GoPro. Anyway, I have 2 primes with my S5 Mark II. I have an both of them f1.8, the 25 and 50 millimeter. So I was doing a test to see if I also have a 20 to 60 variable zoom lens. I was trying to see if the zoom lens was going to be good enough inside. And the ISO for the prime lenses was around 1,000, and it jumped to 20,000 with the zoom lens. So that answered my question. No, I'm not going to be using this lens inside anywhere anytime soon. So, Lee, what do you think about the S5 Mark II?
I've only had them for a few weeks, and I specifically got them actually for the YouTube channel stuff for shooting inside of vehicles. The logic there is the thing that Panasonic does fantastically well is their software and their UI. So the UIs of the cameras are very good, very easy to get around, very easy to customize. And something that the Panasonics, and this is across the Lumix range, Ian and I were actually playing around with this when I had a couple of Panasonics on loan when I was trying them out. So you can plug multiple Panasonics into a computer over USB, and the Lumix app that you get on the Mac, you can control everything on the cameras from that app on multiple cameras. So if I'm sitting in a vehicle and I've got, one camera on me, one camera suction cup to the roof looking at the screens, one camera looking out the car, maybe a fourth camera magnetized to the outside of the car, I can be sitting there on my laptop in the passenger seat, of course, because I wouldn't do this while I'm driving.
Right.
And I can flick between all 4 cameras and adjust exposure or start and stop recording or whatever. So that was the really big selling point for me of the Lumix system. I have been, hopefully they can improve it with software, because I have been a little disappointed with the autofocus. But I'll give you an example. So I was at an EV conference a couple of weeks ago, and I was just shooting interviews with people. And fair enough, it's a challenging environment for it to deal with. And I had the autofocus set to people and eyes and all that kind of stuff. So imagine me and the person that I'm interviewing standing in front of the camera, but there's people walking behind us, and very often the focus would either shift from us to the people behind us, or would focus to just the sign behind us. And like, my Sony never does that. Like, my Sony's like, yeah, you want me to focus on you? I will focus on you. And so it's good, but I'm not sure that I trust it yet.
But you can lock the focus on the people that you want, so it won't do that. There's a way to do that. As a matter of fact, there's a video out talking about people not doing it correctly.
But here's the challenge: are they holding it wrong?
No, not the Steve Jobs are holding it wrong. They said they aren't doing this locking of the subject, even though it's people. There's a way to lock it on the person, so it will only focus. Even when people cut in front of them, it won't focus on them. Go behind them, it won't focus on them.
I think where the challenge is because every now and again I would turn to reference something, so it would lose my face would basically disappear from the screen. So you're seeing me like this, and
right.
so and that's where that's some of the times where it lost.
Don't use the eye. Don't use people and eye. Don't use the eye portion. Yeah. That's when you turn your head, they can't see the eye any longer, it loses. But just use the regular people.
Yeah.
So
but again, they're really good cameras. I haven't even had a chance yet to play with them in terms of plugging a hard drive in and doing the whole ProRes thing and all that kind of stuff. So they're great. I mean, look, they're great cameras. Look, it's hard to buy a bad camera these days. No matter which one you're getting.
The X is $2,200. The X is $2,200 compared to the Sony S4, which is $3,500, and the Sony A7S3, whatever, that's like $3,500, right? So it's $1,200 difference in price as well. So
yeah, but with Sony, you're paying for the lack of firmware updates.
For the lack of firmware, plus, yeah. So I was. Yeah, I understand. But do you like the menu system in the Panasonic better than the Sony menu system?
Absolutely. Look, the Sony menu system's gotten a lot better. Like with the menu system that came out with the S3. Yeah, the S3. So the menu system's got better, but I've always liked the Panasonic menus. I think they and Blackmagic actually. I think Blackmagic menus are pretty darn good. But the Panasonic menus, I've always liked the way they do it. Even just like the quick menus and the profiles, and Panasonic does menus very well.
So who's looking for any specific sessions at the Creative Summit? Anybody looking forward to anything besides the individual ones you guys are doing and Chris's panel? He's on the panel, the first thing. Anything else you're looking forward to?
I always love the tips session. I always learn something.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's a good one.
That's always a highlight for me.
There's a lot of highlights. I mean, the Expo Night is a highlight. The Apple Q&A with the Final Cut Pro Apps team is a highlight. Going to Apple Park is a highlight. All of your sessions are highlights. I mean,
I think I can't remember where it was exactly, but I think there's also a session on accessibility.
Yes, there is one on
accessibility.
Yes.
and that's something that I'm really interested in. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, that was mentioned. It was mentioned in the live stream that was by Dylan on Dylan Bates's channel, but I haven't seen it in the schedule yet. So that'll be with Storm Smith.
It was.
Storm was there, I think, in 2017,
Right.
and so I don't know where she'll be in the schedule here. I don't know where that is. There's only a couple of blanks in there, but no, she was really good, and yeah, I did a session on accessibility. I don't know, 20, I think it was 2019, to an audience including deaf people, and that was who came with their sign language interpreters who are doing ASL. That is nerve-wracking. Presenting on accessibility to people who are understanding you through an interpreter, and phew, it worked out. But yeah, so I'm keen to see Storm again. She did a great job last time.
Yeah, it was here. It was here, and now it's to be.
It was?
Yes, it was. It was originally, yes. Because
Okay.
I take screenshots of these because they have a tendency to change.
Cool.
So it was here, and it was something about, I don't know if it was Storm, but it was just mentioned accessibility. So.
Okay, so yeah, the session she gave way back was on doing creative captions. So using font and size to create captions that actually carried some emotion for the deaf audience, because obviously you miss out on some of that stuff if you just have, regular style captions. So
Right.
that was a really interesting topic, and I'm curious to see, what's happened in the few years since that happened. It's been a while.
When I was the post supervisor at the National Archives, we were just getting into trying to do live captions for our live streams and stuff. And then they started to do the picture-in-picture of the person with sign language instead of captions. Okay? Now, I tried to explain to them, many more people read captions. Sign language, you have to specifically know, and it's a very small percentage of people that are hard of hearing that can use that. Captions are the way to go. You got to you can do both. Mainly sign language is for in-person events. If somebody requests it, then they can have a sign language interpreter. But
yeah. It's definitely different things for different audiences. If you have, a part of your audience who are profoundly deaf and really prefer ASL, then they may
Right.
bring an ASL interpreter. And, the biggest organizations may actually provide that interpreter as well. But many, many, many people will use captions even if they're not hard of hearing. If they choose not to
Yes.
hear, then they need captions. And the other thing which is really important is that if anyone's visiting from another country, even if they speak English, if they're from the UK, New Zealand, Canada, Australia, they've all got different sign language. So an Australian deaf person visiting America will not have much luck listening to ASL, because here in Australia we use Auslan. In Britain they use BSL.
Oh, I didn't know
They
that.
have NZSL.
I did not know that.
And I'm not sure about Canada, but it's different. And it's not the same language. It's not just a transliteration of English. It is a reinterpretation, like another language would be. You don't have all the same words in the same order. So it's a very different thing.
But I use captions when I watch Australian TV because I can understand. I can understand all of you very well, but some of these actors talk too
What's that,
fast,
Homer?
and they say words.
in
I said, "What is
Australia.
that?
What's the
What does that
problem?"
mean?" We just watched. I love some of the Australian TV that I've been watching. There was one with a woman it was an island of lesbians, and they were killed. Men were getting killed. I love
That's a
that
Kiwi
show.
show.
Deadlock.
I love that show. That was
That's actually
Deadlock.
That's a New Zealand
Deadlock.
show.
There's no way I could understand what they were saying without captions on, or subtitles, I should say. I love that show. My girlfriend and I both loved it.
It's Deadlock. For anyone who hasn't seen it, power through the first couple of episodes. If it starts annoying you, it will absolutely
Right.
clean itself up by episode 3. It is brilliant. It's by two amazing comedians, Kate McCartney and Kate McClelland. Brilliant. They've done some really, really good things. They've got a series on YouTube called The Catering Show, catering with a K. Very funny too.
Beware of the
Yeah, no,
language, though.
fantastic.
Beware of
Deadlock.
language.
It's on Amazon. Enjoy.
Yes.
Oh, you don't beware of the language. Embrace the language. It's not
Well, I'm
language
just saying,
right
if
now.
you're sensitive about
Yeah, it's not polite.
crude
not
language, don't watch that. But we were laughing so hard with that series. But it's not the only one. We watch a lot. I look forward to Australian programs that were produced or has Australian actors as well, because we just like them so much. The Outlaws, that was another one. Wasn't that Australian?
Okay.
Do you know that one?
Richard, I'll give you two more to look out for. There's a show that I think's come out recently on Netflix in the US called Frisk, which is a comedy from over here. That's the Katie Flanagan one, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, Frisk.
Fisk?
Yeah, and then there's another one
Not,
which has been
Fisk,
on
without the R.
Fisk. Sorry, Fisk. No, yes, it's been on in Australia for ages, but I think it's only just gotten onto the streaming networks recently. A show called Utopia.
Okay. Oh, good.
Which is fantastic.
It's
I
very,
watched
very
the,
good. There are other shows called Utopia. This is about bureaucracy of government
Yeah,
agencies.
it's about a small
apparatus.
bureaucratic. Yeah, it's a small government agency in Victoria, and how, unfortunately, I think it's very true to life.
So, speaking of that, well, first off, the last season, I was a huge fan of The Leftovers, that TV series. Not Carlton Cuse, the other guy from Lost that did Lost. Anyway, he was involved with The Leftovers, and the last season was filmed in Australia. It was superb. But speaking of TV, Apple TV has had some phenomenal TV shows. One that I highly recommend is Slow Horses. Have you seen that one with Gary Oldman? Excellent. Season 3.
It's like a spy.
But have you
thing, I
seen
think?
Hijack?
Yes, I saw
Hijack's
Hijack.
Oh yeah, that's brilliant.
Yes. Yeah. Slow Horses is the rejects from MI5. They're at the bottom of the barrel, and they keep sending people down to Gary Oldman, who has real long, greasy hair. His character has real long, greasy hair. He couldn't care less about anything. But as it turns out, they are the ones that are solving these crimes because nobody else wants to do them. They throw them aside, and he says, no, we're not going to do that. So the Slow Horses are whatever his group is. He gets all the rejects, and they're the ones that are doing all the crime solving. So it's really good. I love Gary Oldman anyway. Good actor. So what else do we have to talk about? Does anybody see Final Cut Pro 10.7 coming out in 2023, if not the summit? Or at least a preview of it, perhaps? 10.7?
I think it's reasonable to expect it next year, but I mean, they could just go 10.6.23, 10.6.57.
We don't want that. It's ridiculous.
Anything's possible.
No, I realize. No, I'm just saying, so once again, I keep track of these things. The average time between full number updates is 19 months, with the exception of 4 to 5, which was 3 years. Right. Wow. So it took 3 years to go from 10.4 to 10.5, and then when we got 10.5, it was Apple Silicon Native. That's what the big feature was. It took 3 years to. But the average time is 19 months. 10.6 was out 2 years ago. So between 10.6 and 10.7, whenever it comes out, at this point, it's 24 months. So it's longer than average. That's why I'm thinking, once again, my expectations, no. I'm not expecting it. I want my expectations to be raised. But it's not unreasonable to think that 10.7 could be previewed at the summit or sometime around that. Or if there's an Apple event in October, that's the other time that they preview full number Final Cut Pro updates. So hopefully, at least a preview, that would be nice.
Can I ask if anyone, because sometimes I have this feeling of, I'm too busy to have an update. I don't have time to learn this new stuff. I've got work to do. Don't you guys ever have that thing of actually, no, I'm good. Just leave it working the way it is. And if you got some features, store them up. And in 6 months' time, you can release all of them at once. But am I weird?
You are weird. Let me tell you why.
Right.
It's a rhetorical question.
I am keen to not have to update my book again just so soon after the second edition has come out. Have I mentioned the second edition of my book has come out, and I'm on the cover now. It's very exciting.
Oh, you weren't on a cover
anyway,
before?
Just incidentally, no, I wasn't on the cover before. I'm on the cover of a book. It's kind of weird. Anyway, yeah. But I don't want to have to update that right now. Like 6 months, that'd be great. Let's just have a little bit.
Well,
of
you're
time,
already working on 1070. Yeah? You're already working on a 10.7 book. You just have to finish it up. So listen, one of the things I want to ask Final Cut Pro team, do they know how many times I've had to change the timeline view in the last 12 years? To my preference of a larger icon, you got to go to that view thing. Every time I do a new project, that has to be changed. Why can't that be a default? I mean, all these times I've had to do that. That's just a little thing. But I'm just saying there's so many.
There could be a little tick box that say lock this view.
Absolutely. Use as default. But it should be kind of automatic. Leave it.
Yeah, Chris, you could make that happen by tomorrow. Can you get onto that?
I think Command Post already does. I'm pretty sure we have a feature that can remember your layout.
Okay.
And so I think I solved that years ago.
Right.
But I'd have to double check to where it is.
It's not that difficult, right? Wasn't that difficult to do, Chris?
You can define these keys here to do, so like 2 of them here do zooming and 2 of them do track height, and then that makes life really easy. Or
come to Ian's session to find out how.
Yeah.
You could use this, and you could use this to control track height and zooming, like vertical and horizontal. It's like this is doable. I actually have all these presets already set up.
But why doesn't it just stay where I set it?
You could use this thing from Monogram and do the same thing. It's like there's so many convenient ways to do that, and I don't know why it doesn't stay put for you, Richard.
Yeah, just stay put. And the other thing is, speaking of timelines, please incorporate individual line heights instead of all at once. Logic has it, Resolve has it. Everybody has individual. You can do individual line heights, so you can and save those. Save that layout for yourself, so you can don't have to duplicate it every time you start a project.
It'll do that through audio. Like you can have one roll visible and bigger, and the others all shrunken and hidden. But it won't do it for video, I don't think. Will it?
No. It's just one size fits all, whatever size you set all the video lanes. But I'm saying Logic has individual. You can do individual. You can do them all the same. Resolve is the same way. You can do them individual. LumaFusion is the same way. Different heights, whatever you want. So that would be very, very nice. We got another comment. Hi from the UK. UK, this is not early in the morning over there. I know that much. And he says, I agree, there's always the fear that something will break your projects. Well, this year, since August, yes, that's very true. Wait, I'm not on 10.6.10 because I didn't have the FX Factory bug, so I'm 10.6.9, and I did that because of the Apple log was included. See, when have they ever updated Final Cut for the iPhone specifically? Because that's what this was. This was an iPhone specific, 10.6.9 was an iPhone specific update for Final Cut. Cinematic mode, maybe?
I was thinking for cinematic mode there was an update.
But in that case, they weren't out the same day. There was a lag for Final Cut. The phone came out, it had cinematic mode. You could not edit it in Final Cut for till a month later. That's when the update came. You could edit it on the phone in cinematic mode, but you couldn't edit it in Final Cut till like a month later. So do they talk to each other?
Waiting on app review. Yeah, just waiting on app review. Sometimes it
even
takes
Apple?
Time.
Even Apple themselves? I mean, come on.
So I don't know what the rules are for Apple.
It's a very big company. That's true. Wasn't it a case of that, like when they were developing iPhone, like different teams within the iPhone team didn't know what the other teams were doing? Sometimes they do. They keep them very compartmentalized. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, they had they had an interview. I thought it was Charlie Rose went in there, and he went to Apple, the iPhone department, whatever. Everything was covered up with black cloths, but they told him there's 700 people working just on the iPhone camera.
Wow.
Just on the iPhone camera. And that's hardware, software, integration and stuff, but 700 people just working on the iPhone camera. I was amazed. I said, can't you give like a couple dozen of those to the Final Cut Pro team, see what they need and get the optimal people over there? But no. I don't even know how big the Final Cut Pro team is. I know it's at least got about a dozen, because I know about a dozen of the people, but beyond that, I mean, Philip Hodges had a good point one time. He said there is an optimal amount of people that are effective on, when creating software. Above that doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't increase.
There's a software development maxim which is explained in a book called The Mythical Man Month, which I remember I found in my IT degree back in the early 90s. And basically throwing more people at a problem does not speed it up, because they all have to work together and then they get in each other's way. In fact, you end up just complicating everything. So yeah, more people does not equal a better result.
Not necessarily.
And it doesn't mean a more capable result.
Not necessarily. But if I'm building a house, there is an optimal amount of people that I need to do that house on schedule. Up to that, beyond that point is where you don't gain anything, because people are making mistakes, or a guy fell off the roof or whatever. So there is an optimal amount, is what
which is the same reason that once you've got that house and you want to add an extension, you don't want to get rid of any supporting walls because they might be load bearing.
That's correct. I built my own house in '86. My house.
Yeah. The situation's not totally unique. I remember Adobe InDesign went through a period without many updates for, I think, a year or so, because the entire at least a lot of the InDesign team went off and developed Adobe Muse, which I think has since been discontinued. And look, if you look at Adobe InDesign, very little has changed on that app since it was introduced around 2003. It's the same basic programming. The initial one was very good, and a big step up over Quark Express at the time, which had the most glacial software development pace. But InDesign could have had so much more than it has had to date. They keep introducing new stuff for the back end to make it easier for designers, but they don't make it easy to make new kinds of creative things. And, Premiere languished for a long time. It's done well recently. Photoshop has done pretty well recently because of the AI stuff, which is really good. But, After Effects took forever to get fast. It was slow for 2 decades. Now it's better, and motion's still faster. So we can complain about motion's lack of features, and that is a fair complaint, that it hasn't updated as much as it can, and that it's more Final Cut's filter development engine, but it's been faster than Adobe After Effects for more than 20 years now. So there's that.
But After Effects is
everything.
After Effects is a standard in the industry. That's just like Pro Tools is, though.
Yeah. It can be the standard and not be very good.
Well,
or it can be good at things which are not what you want to do. Like After Effects is fantastic and much better than Motion if you want to do scripting, if you want extensibility through plugins. It's like, yeah, it's really good at that, but you can't select 2 items and just group them. Just stick them in a folder in the timeline. It doesn't happen. No,
You're kidding me.
You can't in Final Cut. No. Like in Final Cut, you have to put them in a compound clip. In After Effects, you have to put them in a pre-comp. But in Motion, you just stick them in a folder.
Right.
And you can make the folder bigger or smaller, but you can still see everything in the same context, which would be really nice for video editing applications, but Motion's had it forever. And it's
Motion
always been faster.
Motion also has a scrolling timeline.
So, yeah.
They've had it forever. With Logic. Logic has 2 scrolling timelines, right? Logic has 2. You can have a zoomed in view and an expanded view.
Okay, you know what my prediction is, Richard?
Yes, I absolutely want to hear your prediction.
Sure. In the next 6 months, we will have 3D stereoscopic video support in Final Cut Pro because we need it for the Apple Vision Pro. And typically, if we need stuff to be supported on another Apple hardware device, and Final Cut Pro is the best place for that support to be, then we will probably get it. We haven't got
that makes
everything,
sense.
but we've had a lot of iPhone support. And, you know, at the last developer conference, Apple was announcing MVHEVC, which is a new standard extension they've proposed, which is going to allow you to deliver a stereoscopic video to people who can see it and use the same file to deliver a mono video to people who can't. That's exactly what we've needed and what we haven't had. Stereo video has been a real pain for everyone. And
I
so,
see.
yeah, that seems
reasonable. That seems completely reasonable. I still think we're going to get text-based editing and auto captions. I think that they have to do that whenever the big update comes out. But the Vision Pro support in Final Cut is only going to affect a small amount of people. I'm looking for more broad-based. I don't think that
Not
many.
Not necessarily, because these things, though, can record stereo, right? Or they will be able to record stereoscopic video as of like a month or so. So there are apps that have been on the App Store for years which let you view 3D content on your phone because they know they either track your eyes and know where you're looking, or they can just use the gyros in the phone to know which way you've moved it. And that means we can do 3D content not just on an Apple Vision Pro. So that's what I would love to see happen. We will see how open Apple's going to be about eye tracking.
Oh, I see.
They've been very, very careful about that on Vision Pro. And it depends how much they want to handle internally at the OS level so that advertisers can't track what people are looking at, which...
I see. So you're saying it's not dependent on the Vision Pro. That support's not dependent on the Vision Pro.
I hope not. I really hope not. But you never know what we're going to get. But I would really, really hope that we get to do 3D videos that aren't just headset exclusives. Sure, because they'll look better on a headset for sure.
And also keep in mind, just because the headset's only available in the US doesn't mean those of us who make content everywhere else can't be making content for it. I mean, we can't preview it, but we could still make content for it.
I didn't know that. It's only available in the US? I didn't know that.
So, yeah.
Huh.
The Vision Pro?
Apple Vision Pro will only be in the US for most of next year. And then it's only going to extend out to the UK and Canada, I think is the rumor, but not Australia, late in the year. So it'll be 2025 before we see it in Australia.
Yeah, but you'll have the good version because the first version's not going to be as good.
I think I'd accept the bad version if I was offered, Richard.
You're going to get one at the Creative Summit. They're going to be under our seats, I'm telling you. It's going to be under one of the presentations. Look under your seat.
At that stage yet.
You don't think so? Well, Apple has more money than anybody in the world. Come on. So there's another thing about the Vision Pro. It's just creepy to me to see people's eyes projected on the front of that screen. Every time I see that, it gives me the creeps. I mean, I understand why they did it. It's better than just a blank screen or whatever, but it just looks unnatural. And you're not really looking at the eyes, it's just a projection of the eyes.
Yeah, well, not even a projection, it's a digitally created.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's not like it's taking a camera and doing it. You sort of have to do a setup process to scan your face, essentially, and then it builds a photo-accurate 3D model, essentially.
Well, that's even worse,
it has to
Chris.
Reproject. It's a reprojected version of a 3D model that's already captured. Presumably
I thought it was
actually roughly what you're actually doing at the time, but it's not actually filming your face and putting that forward.
I see. I thought they had little teeny cameras that were actually projecting what your eyes were looking at, but it's not even that. No wonder. It just looks creepy. When I see the pictures, it's like, is this a horror movie? What the heck's going? The one thing when they showed the event, the Apple event with that, and they showed the father talking to his child in the kitchen. He had the goggles on and the child didn't. What is that? That is so bizarre that they would do something like that. I want to talk to a child directly. I don't want to be...
Yeah.
There's uses for it, obviously.
That's why we'll have this. That's why we'll be able to record stereo videos on this, to be less creepy.
There you go. Anything else? Creative Summit wise, we all talked about having good, hopefully they have good Australian coffee over there for everybody. They do have Pete's Coffee in the one place that has breakfast. I saw that. Pete's Coffee is pretty good, but the thing is, it's too watered down for me. I double strength my coffee because I put cream in it, so even Pete's is not that, you know. If I go to a Starbucks, I got to have the latte that has two or three espresso shots. Give me that 2 or 3. And don't even think about giving me decaf. Okay, that's just a waste of time. So at the main hotel, there's a very expensive restaurant where the presentations are, and there's a sushi place, and there's kind of a cafe or mart that has like breakfast, different cold and hot breakfast, and that's where the Pete's Coffee is. The Al Loft, I haven't. There's a couple of places up there as well, but I'm not sure where people are going to congregate after in the evenings. Besides the expo, which is back at the main hotel where the program is.
There's I think I saw when I was looking at the map. There's a sports stadium not too far away. Surely, would there be food places near the stadium?
I don't think if not having an event. Maybe.
No, I think
We'll work it
from
out.
looking at the maps, there's a stadium, but there's also there's an amusement park, but it's only open on weekends. So unless we all head there on the Sunday, it's a giant, useless, empty pile of space that we don't get to go visit, which is disappointing because that would be fun.
Yeah. Well, we got lots to do anyway. Plenty of things to happen, already. And, you guys are going to be traveling for 15 hours. You're going to be tired on Saturday or Sunday whenever you get in. I usually take I get movies on my iPad from Netflix or Prime Video and just watch a series, and it helps me pass the time on the airplane. And I have to get an aisle seat. My God, there's no way I can put these legs under anything that's less. I got to stick them out the aisle half the time, or at least partially. Otherwise, I get too leg crampy. And if I put that on, I have a couple TV series watch on my iPad. It's 5 hours, no big deal.
I find, at least for me,
Yeah,
I
I'm
just
the
try
total
and
opposite.
sleep as much as I can.
I can't sleep on a plane. I have trouble. I mean, 15 hours I would for sure. Yeah.
Now I'm going to need a window and a season of Taskmaster or Westworld, and maybe just a couple of seasons of podcasts.
Westworld
with the
is
time
superb.
passed.
I really liked it once I got
Yeah, I
out of
haven't
the
seen it
Western
all yet.
part. Once I got out of the Western part and got into more just,
No spoilers.
I'm not going to spoil it.
Good.
But it really turned to the way that I prefer it, which is really nice. I don't know if there's a new season coming out or not. Good old HBO.
No, it's over. It's been cancelled.
Oh, has it been?
Sadly, yes. Yeah.
So we have a
So it's their
question.
next show, The
Yeah, I was
Peripheral.
about to say.
Are they streaming the main presentation? No, they are not doing any live streaming at the summit. This is for in-person, the first time. Now, they may do recordings, but the recordings are only the screen presentations, the PowerPoints and stuff that the presenter has. They don't do, presentation from the back of the room or anything. But that might be available. It'll probably be available for people who pay the $2.99 if it is available. But that's an additional expense they have to do. So I don't know. They said they haven't announced whether they're doing that, but there will not be any live streaming at the presentation. This is an in-person event. It's a lot of money taking off work, getting airfare, getting a hotel, paying for the thing. It's a lot of cost involved for every individual that's there. So this is what it's for. Now, in the past, we were allowed to immediately announce updates to Final Cut Pro on social media, immediately. So there won't be any secrets like we get to see, something and we can't talk about that. Should be, if it's like the past, should be immediately available to everybody at the same time. worldwide. They encouraged us to post it on social media when 10.4 came out in 10.4.4. They encouraged us. Because when 10.3 came out in 2016, 10.4 came out 1 year later, and I looked at one of the Apple people. I said, is this 10.4? Because it's only been a year. He goes, yes, 10.4. I said, oh, okay. So please take pictures and post it on social media. Looking forward to it, as I'm sure all you are.
Yeah, I'm very excited. As my first Final Cut Pro Creative Summit.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to everything about it. One of the things I want to say is I want to thank Ben over there at Future Media Concepts, because without them, this event wouldn't happen. Nobody else is taking up the mantle to work with Apple and put this event on except for Future Media Conferences. So they've been putting it on since 2015. I didn't go to the first one, which was not in Cupertino. And then they went on 2016 and 2017. And then they had the virtual ones in 2020, 2021, and 2022. Well, 2022 was the semi-worldwide one. They only went to the United States and didn't get any further than that.
Like your baseball World Series, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but I thought that was what was going to happen, because it didn't seem like they were that well attended. I mean, it looked like a couple dozen people showed up for each one versus 150 to 200 when it's all together at one location at one time. That's what it's been in the past. I expect the same. It's $299. It's a good price point, considering it was almost $1,000, in the past. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's it is a slight shame for the people who can't make it that there's not some sort of online way of, I suppose. I mean, yeah, it's challenging to get access to everything, but I suppose follow people on social media who that are going, and they'll be posting things along the way. And I know, Richard, you do a really good job of sort of live stream, just little snippets during the day, so that people can sort of feel like they're in the room.
Because I've always missed that when these events happened and I couldn't show up and I couldn't be there. And I said, well, I want to do that for people. So I will be live streaming short segments multiple times throughout the day. Anything that we can talk about will be available for that. Yes.
Yeah. And that's really great, particularly for people like the three of us who normally can't travel the distance to go to something like this. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, thank you for saying that. It's nice of you.
No, it is good to have a record of this stuff. Like I like being able to look back on this stuff. I like having records of previous events, and there's a couple of events where I film each year and I get to look back on things which have happened. And I think you and I, Richard, are the only people regularly filming the summit. So we're the only ones regularly making videos about it, which is a shame, because we're all video editors. Don't we all shoot stuff as well? But no, we don't. We don't.
Well, if you're doing a presentation, you're worried about that and doing all this different things. But in 2016, when I started live streaming on Facebook, it's like, this is fantastic. It's like having a TV studio in your iPhone or at your house, and you can broadcast to the world. And that's when I started, and I really liked it. But I also was a ham radio operator as a kid, and I've just renewed my ham radio license as an adult, because it's the same thing. You're broadcasting to the world. You're broadcasting to the world. So now you can do it on your phone. It's not you just press one button and it's done. It's a little bit complicated. I've been honing this different scenarios for whether it's on the phone or whether it's on my MacBook, whether it's a hotel room, whether it's in the lobby. Everything's different. Microphones are different. Streaming services are different. But anyway, I enjoy it, and I do like having people get that window as much as possible. Obviously, we're not going to reveal anything that's secret. We haven't so far, anyway. Chris might. He might be a problem. They might not let him back next year. He might.
I don't think I can afford to go back next year. I think
I
this will
know.
be my one summit.
No, but this is a good summit to come to, I have a feeling, because it's been 4 years. And it's, even for me being in the same continent, but in the East Coast, it's expensive. Just the airfare and stuff, it's expensive. And then you got Ubers, and the meals are not going to be cheap. I'll have to be on a diet when I'm there.
At least you're earning and spending US dollars. I just looked today at something that was $166 US dollars was 260 Australian dollars.
Well, I didn't even think about that, the exchange rate.
So imagine if you're buying a lunch that's $16, that's costing us $26.
Wow.
And
That's a consideration.
It could be a little bit better or a little bit worse by the time we get there.
Yeah. I was in England one time at the International Date Line, where the actual physical date line is, Greenwich. And we were eating at a restaurant, and they had fish and chips, which I hadn't had at that point. I said, should I get the fish and chips? Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be that good here in Greenwich versus in London. And the waiter got insulted, and he said to me, I'll tell you what, order your fish and chips. If you like it, you pay me double. If you don't like it, you get it for free. And I said, no, that's okay. I'll just get it at the normal price. He was insulted that I would say they wouldn't be as good as London. I think I was talking to the group of people, not to him, but he might, I guess he was standing there, he got insulted. He said, no, they're fine, they're good here. I said, okay, that's fine. I didn't mean to cause an international turmoil at the date line, but they actually have a physical line in the ground. That's the date line. You can jump on one side physically and technically be on one date and the other.
I used to live there. Not on
you
that
did?
line, but like around the corner. Yeah, when I lived in London.
Do they have a line there in London too?
No. I mean, in Greenwich. Greenwich is like a suburb of London. It's yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be good to see everybody.
How was the fish and chips?
It was fine. It was completely fine. I just didn't think, it's like, okay, if you're in Baltimore and you get crabs in Baltimore, they're world famous, the seafood crabs. But when you go somewhere else, it's not the same. It's just, so I thought London would have good fish and chips. Greenwich, I don't know. So, but anyway.
The whole country does good fish and chips.
Yeah, okay. Well, now I know. And I won't say that again if I'm around a British waiter. He was definitely insulted. I didn't mean to. That's not what the point was. But anyway, I got him in this, and I said, no, I'm not going to pay you double. Just give them to me, and I'll pay the regular price. I don't go for that double stuff, double or nothing. No, sir. All right. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you. Absolutely. It'll be great. As usual. Have a good time seeing everybody. I think that guy's from England, if I'm not mistaken. Talking about media management in Final Cut. I mean, media management is 100% effective in Final Cut, right? We don't need any improvements in that department. It's like audio. Audio is completely 100% done. No need for a mixer. No need for a volume control. Don't need anything like that.
Yeah, they've just got the make it better button.
There you go. Or I used to say, well, make video viral. We're in the file menu, make video viral. That's what we need. So I'm excited for the Final Cut Pro team, whatever they're going to show us. I'm glad to see some of those people again. So glad to see all you and everybody else that's going to be there. It'll be less than a month away. Today's the 10th.
Yeah, less than a month away.
Less than a month away.
I was just gonna say. I think I might need to wrap up. All my light batteries are dying.
Okay, it's okay. We've been on. Look, we only been on for 2 hours and 23 minutes. Seems like an hour, right? Seems like an hour, but 2 hours and 23 minutes is great.
Barely opened our mouths.
There you go. Thanks all of you guys for showing up again and coming on this live stream to present everybody with all the information about the summit that we have. There's more information coming up. They still haven't done the official Apple Day schedule yet, but I know a couple of things that are happening. I don't know what the Apple schedule, I presume we're going to see from the Final Cut Pro team, and then a demo room, which is what we've had in the past. That's probably what they're going to happen again. Did any of you, Lee, or did you go to the demo room in 2019?
Yeah, I think so. I think I did. I went everywhere they'd let me.
Well, they didn't. It was after the presentation. You could go. It was the
Yes, wasn't it they had two and like you went
always
to one for a little bit of time? Yeah, okay.
They split because they couldn't handle the amount of people in one place. I don't know if that's going to be the same as at the park. Maybe, but the demo room was like a ghost town because they had the 2019 Mac Pro that you couldn't talk about, and you couldn't take pictures, and you couldn't take videos. In the prior years, take pictures, take videos, they had, all the stuff. But in 2019, it was like, you can't take pictures, you can't take videos. No, because the Mac Pro hasn't been released yet. It's coming out in December. You can't take pictures. Nobody knows about this secret. And then the next day or the next week, they had the MacBook Pro that came out, but they let the YouTube influencers see it in New York. They all had it, but we couldn't see it at the Creative Summit.
So I'll get to see it this time. Great.
Yeah, exactly. So are we going to see the M3 MacBook Pros in October, you think? It's 15 and 6. You're not going to see it? I've been seen reports back and forth both directions, whether there is going to be an Apple event in October or there's not going to be an Apple event in October.
It's getting a bit late now if they were going to announce anything.
Yeah, they usually do it right before, if there's a summit, they're going to do it before the summit, so they kind of overlap a little bit. But you're right. If they are going to announce it, they might announce it today. What's today? Tuesday, yeah. They might announce it for next week or something if they're going to do it, or the following week. Yeah, it is getting kind of late, but I don't really care. I'm not really that excited about getting a new MacBook Pro because my M1 Max is doing fantastic so far. I probably will get one, but I didn't get the M2, so we'll have to see. Anything else, gentlemen? Thank you very much for showing up and coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. This is one of my favorite shows. The Aussie show is one of my favorite shows. All right, we'll see you in less than 4 weeks. 4 weeks from last Sunday, I think it is, right? Have a good flight. Have an uneventful flight. Relaxed. Watch your YouTube videos or your Netflix videos and sleep, whatever you want to do. And I'll see you in a few weeks. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Richard.
Indeed.
Bye.
See you soon, Richard. Bye-bye.
Bye.